The early 2000s were more than just a new decade, they were a cultural reset. Music wasn't just evolving, it was exploding into new territory. Genres collided, technology changed everything, and the world suddenly found itself connected through sound in ways no one had ever experienced before. Today, we're diving deep into the unforgettable era that shaped modern music, the early 2000s. Imagine the world in the year 2000. CDs were still king, MP3 players were slowly emerging, and YouTube didn't even exist yet. But the hunger for music was growing rapidly, and people were desperate to discover new sounds. This era gave birth to some of the biggest shifts in music history, and it all began with one revolution: digital music. As the internet spread across the world, file-sharing platforms like Napster, LimeWire, and Kazaa completely disrupted the industry. Suddenly, millions of people had access to massive libraries of songs right at their fingertips. It was chaotic, controversial, and completely transformative. Artists, labels, and fans were thrown into unfamiliar territory, and the music world had to reinvent itself fast. While the industry struggled, creativity flourished. Pop music erupted into one of its most iconic eras. Britney Spears, already a superstar, dominated charts with powerhouse hits and unforgettable performances. Christina Aguilera pushed boundaries with her bold reinventions. NSYNC and Backstreet Boys brought massive energy to the boy band craze. Every week felt like a new cultural moment. But the early 2000s weren't just about polished pop. Rock and alternative music surged with equal force. Bands like Linkin Park blended rock and rap in a way no one had heard before. Hybrid Theory became one of the biggest albums of the entire decade. Meanwhile, Green Day, Blink-182, and Sum 41 fueled the pop-punk explosion, giving an entire generation its rebellious soundtrack. Emo and alternative rock blossomed too, with bands like My Chemical Romance delivering emotional, dramatic, and deeply personal music that connected with fans worldwide. Hip-hop was undergoing its own transformation. Eminem pushed lyrical boundaries with raw storytelling and controversy. 50 Cent burst onto the scene with infectious beats and a powerful image. Jay-Z and Kanye West shaped the sound of modern rap, blending soul samples with innovative production. The genre was becoming more mainstream, more diverse, and more influential than ever. Behind the scenes, producers were becoming stars in their own right. Timbaland, The Neptunes, Scott Storch, and Dr. Dre defined the sound of the early 2000s with futuristic beats and iconic rhythms. Their music didn't just fill the charts, it shaped entire cultural movements. Songs had a signature sound you could recognize within seconds. Then, something even bigger arrived: the digital music era turned mainstream. In 2001, Apple released the iPod, a tiny device that could store hundreds of songs in your pocket. It was sleek, futuristic, and revolutionary. The now iconic slogan 1,000 songs in your pocket changed everything. Music became portable in a way that felt almost magical at the time. And in 2003, another shockwave hit: the iTunes Store launched. For the first time, listeners could buy single songs legally with just one click. Albums, playlists, and entire libraries shifted online. The industry was forced to evolve, and artists began crafting music with this new world in mind. Meanwhile, R&B was reaching new heights. Beyoncé launched her solo career with Dangerously in Love, redefining pop and R&B with her signature style and vocal power. Usher released Confessions, one of the best-selling R&B albums of all time. Alicia Keys introduced a soulful, piano-driven sound that stood out from everything else on the radio. The early 2000s were a golden era for collaborations too. Artists from different genres joined forces, creating hybrid songs that dominated charts: Nelly and Kelly Rowland, Jay-Z and Linkin Park, Shakira, and Beyoncé. These unexpected combinations pushed music forward in bold, exciting ways. But the early 2000s were more than musicians and hits, they were an experience. Music channels like MTV and VH1 were at their peak. Music videos became cinematic events with huge budgets and unforgettable visuals. A new song didn't feel complete until you saw its video premiere on TV. And hidden in all this noise, something quietly began changing: social media. Platforms like MySpace allowed artists to upload songs and connect with fans directly. Up-and-coming musicians finally had tools to build their own audiences without relying on record labels. This shift opened the door for countless artists who would become the stars of the next decade. The sounds of that era haven't disappeared, they continue shaping modern music today. Pop, hip-hop, rock, electronic, R&B. Nearly every modern genre still carries echoes of the early 2000s. The fashion, the aesthetic, the videos, and the energy of that time continue inspiring creators around the world. And even today, decades later, the music of that time remains unforgettable. Perhaps that's why so many people return to it, because those songs weren't just hits. They were memories. They were moments. They were the soundtrack of an era unlike any other.